Hello fellow Star Wars fans, my name is Starrapter and welcome back to the channel. In today's video I'm going to be breaking down the latest short story for the High Republic in Star Wars Insider issue number 215. This one, as always for Phase 2, is written by George Mann and it's called A Different Perspective. Very interesting about this one, there's no part 1 or part 2. This is a self-contained single short story in Phase 2 of the High Republic. So as always, this is part of Tales of Enlightenment, based around this guy that works for Church of the Force. His name is Keth on Jedi. So this one opens up the backdrop as this does take place after Star Wars Convergence. So make sure you read that first before you read this one, because it will spoil the events, which I'm about to spoil right now, so you have been warned. So what's happening is we have this event called the Inaugural Festival of Balance, and this is organized by the Convocation of the Force, which is that organization of all the different Force sects there on Jedha, from the Jedi to the Path of the Open Hand to the Disciples of the Wills. All those different kind of Force sects that we've seen in issue number 1 of the High Republic are there to put this on board to basically get everybody to have a reason to celebrate together. And what's also happened is, after the events of Convergence, the delegation from both Irem and Arona has arrived on Jedha's neutral territory to basically have their peace talks of finally ending the forever war. So there you go. That's your backdrop of this story. And there on the streets, we have Jedi Knight Maeve Colin, who is trying to save this poor Abedneto's soul from getting run over by a speeder bike that has completely lost control under the driver's direction. So they actually force push this Abedneto out of the way before he gets impaled by the speeder bike. And it turns out, as the Jedi Knight goes to rescue and pull this guy up off the ground, as Abedneto, he is part of the Path of the Open Hand, and he is not wanting anything to do with the Jedi. As we know from Convergence, as we know from Path of Deceit, the young adult novel, the Path of the Open Hand is completely against the Jedi, and we learn why in this issue. This short story here gives us a good idea of what their perspective is. Obviously, this is called A Different Perspective, so we get that in this story. So what happens is we have Keth seeing this happen. He brings back this Abedneto named Wool back to the Enlightenment Bar. And that's when the Abedneto is sharing their thoughts on what is going on with the Path of the Open Hand. And their whole ideology is, if the Jedi use the Force to save somebody over here, they're going to be manipulating the life force of the Force, which means somewhere elsewhere in a galaxy, somebody that could use the Force, that needs the Force, is going to end up basically dying or getting really hurt. So they're really against like the shared use of the Force, and they want the Force to just be where it is without being manipulated. So this character Vul gives a story about their brother and about how their first steps into the Path of the Open Hand go. So basically they're both miners, and there's a cave-in, and their brother, Wool's brother, named Grail, actually has Force sensitivity and saves a bunch of miners from a collapse. But basically nearby, a collapse also happens not short after that and kills certain people. So the idea is, okay, Grail saved the people over here, but then of course it had to balance out and people over in this area died. And that is basically what happens in real time here, when some people rush into the Enlightenment Bar after this happens and says, oh, there's been somebody that's been killed by a speeder bike on this other street. It's like, and that gets Keth to think. It's like, and now I follow the Church of the Force, so I don't really believe this, as far as Keth's saying, but now it seems clearly evident that this character, Wool of the Abedneto and the Path of the Open Hand, could have a sort of realization of like, oh yeah, this is happening in our real time. If the Jedi didn't save this character on the streets, this other character would have lived, but then they would have died. And the Abedneto is willing to risk their life to say, okay, I'm not going to be manipulated by the Force to be saved. So there you go. This is a good perspective of the Path of the Open Hand and this short story that is self-contained in the High Republic Phase 2 Quest of the Jedi. So for more on Quest of the Jedi, I have my reviews of all the first books of Phase 2 on the channel right now. Make sure you go ahead and check those out and let me know what you thought about this review. That's going to do it for me, Starrapter. Thank you so much for watching, and may the Force be with you always.
Thanks for checking out the video. Please hit that thumbs up symbol. It helps me know that I'm making content that you guys enjoy. And if you enjoyed this video, I also included 2 videos down below you guys should check out. and please consider subscribing to this channel. It helps support me and it notifies you guys of when I get new videos up on the channel. You can also contact me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Starrapter.